And then, as if in response to my thoughts, the angel I had seen in front of the throne of God appeared before me. His presence was both comforting and terrifying at the same time. I knew that he had come with a message, and I braced myself for what was to come. The angel looked at me with a stern expression and said, "Come with me, Mitch. There is much for you to see and record. The end of days is near, and you must bear witness to all that unfolds." Without hesitation, I followed the angel, my heart heavy with dread and anticipation. I knew that whatever lay ahead would be unlike anything I had ever experienced before. As we walked, the angel began to reveal to me the true nature of the scroll that I had seen him with earlier. He told me that it represented the unfolding of events that would lead to the end of the world, and that it was my duty to record all that I saw and heard. I was filled with a sense of purpose and determination, knowing that I had been chosen for this task. And yet, at the same time, I couldn't help but feel a sense of overwhelming fear at what was to come. As we journeyed together, the angel revealed to me the horrors that were yet to come. He showed me visions of plagues, famines, and wars that would ravage the earth. And he told me of the coming of the Antichrist, the one who would deceive the nations and lead them into destruction. Despite the terror that gripped my heart, I knew that I had to continue on. I had been chosen for a purpose, and I would fulfill that purpose, no matter the cost. As I followed the angel through the chaos, I couldn't help but wonder what was going to happen next. The earth seemed to be groaning under the weight of its own destruction, and I felt small and insignificant in the face of such power. We walked for what felt like hours until we finally reached a place that seemed to be untouched by the destruction around us. The air was clear and fresh, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. People had taken shelter in this untouched place, but they didn't seem to be able to see the angel or myself. The angel handed me a scroll and said, "This is the chronicle of the last days of mankind. I want you to write down everything you see and hear so that future generations may know what happened here." I nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead of me. I unrolled the scroll and began to write, my pen scratching across the parchment as I documented the horrors I had witnessed. As I wrote, I began to see patterns emerging from the chaos. The destruction wasn't random, but seemed to be part of a larger plan. It was like the universe was purging itself of all the evil and corruption that had taken root. And then I saw him, the Antichrist. He emerged from the shadows like a snake, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. I could feel the evil emanating from him like a physical force, and I knew that he was the embodiment of all that was wrong with the world. The Antichrist would speak in a voice that dripped with honeyed venom, promising power and wealth to all who followed him. But I knew that his promises were empty, and that he was leading his followers to their own destruction. As I continued to write, I knew that I was witnessing something that would be remembered for centuries to come. The end of the world as we knew it, and the birth of something new and different. As the angel led me through time, I witnessed the world slowly descending into chaos and destruction. The aftermath of the sixth trumpet had left the earth in ruins, and people were desperate for hope and guidance. And that's when the Antichrist appeared on the scene. At first, he presented himself as a savior, promising to lead humanity out of the darkness and into a new era of prosperity and peace. His words resonated with many who were looking for someone to follow, and soon he had gained a large following of devoted believers. But as time passed, his true intentions became clear. He was not a savior, but a destroyer. He twisted and distorted the teachings of religion, using them to justify violence and oppression. He convinced his followers that anyone who opposed them was an enemy, and that they must be destroyed at any cost. I watched in horror as the Antichrist's influence grew, and as he gained more and more power over the nations of the world. He was a master manipulator, using fear and propaganda to control the masses and to silence any dissenting voices. I saw families torn apart as they were forced to choose between their allegiance to the Antichrist and their love for each other. I saw people turning on each other, driven mad by the paranoia and mistrust that the Antichrist had instilled in them. The world slowly changed under his rule, and it was a change for the worse. The values and social norms that had once held society together were replaced with an evil and twisted ideology that served only to further the Antichrist's agenda. But despite all of this, there were still those who resisted, those who saw through the lies and deception, and who refused to bow down to the Antichrist. These brave souls fought against his forces of darkness, risking their lives in the hopes of one day restoring the world to its former glory. As I witnessed all of this, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of despair and hopelessness. The Antichrist seemed unstoppable, and it was hard to imagine how anyone could ever hope to defeat him. But I knew that there was still a glimmer of hope, and I prayed that somehow, some way, good would ultimately triumph over evil.